So our story begins with John the Baptist, and he's in prison. He's gone against the status quo. He's offended a very politically powerful person, Herod himself, who has married his brother's wife and has committed adultery in the eyes of the Lord. So John is now in prison. Now, while in prison, it's important to realize John's faith is not wavering. He's not wondering whether God's going to meet his plan or not. He's still trusting God's divine plan. But he is beginning to wonder whether Jesus, who is becoming very popular, is the Messiah that was prophesied to come. Because John's entire ministry was to prepare the way for the Messiah. And even John himself was prophesied about in scriptures. In Isaiah chapter 40, verses 3 through 5 is where the prophecy of John the Baptist is found. A voice cries, "In the wilderness prepare the way of the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be lifted up, and every mountain and hill shall be made low. The uneven ground shall become level, and the rough places a plain. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken." So while John is in prison, he sends two of his own disciples to Jesus to ask Jesus if he really is the Messiah that was prophesied. Let's go ahead and look at the scripture. Luke chapter 7, verses 19 through 23. "And John, calling two of his disciples to him, sent them to the Lord, saying, 'Are you the one who is to come, or shall we look for another?' And when the men had come to him, and they said, 'John the Baptist has sent us to you, saying, Are you the one who's to come, or shall we look for another?' In that hour he," that is Jesus, "healed many people of diseases and plagues and evil spirits. And on many who were blind he bestowed sight. And he answered them, 'Go, and tell John what you have seen and heard. The blind receive their sight, the lame walk, lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear. The dead are raised up, the poor have good news preached to them, and blessed is the one who is not offended by me.'" Now, here's what Jesus could have said. This could have been his response. "Are you the Messiah, Jesus?" He could have said, Yes, I am the Messiah." He had every right to do that. But he didn't do this. Instead, what he does is he gives John's disciples a checklist. The blind receive their sight, the lame walk, lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised up, the poor have the good news preached to them. Blessed is the one who's not offended by me. Well, John gets this report in prison. And it's important to know that John understands the scriptures. He has vast amounts of scriptures memorized. He has mainly the book of Isaiah memorized. After all, John himself was the son of a priest, Zechariah and Elizabeth, who'd waited and waited and waited, and then finally in their old age, God had given them their son John. And so John the Baptist knows the scriptures. And so when he gets Jesus' response, immediately his mind goes to Isaiah 35. "The eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf unstopped." Immediately, "The lame man shall leap like a deer, and the tongue of the mute shall sing for joy." He thinks of Isaiah 53. "Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows." The Hebrew word for griefs here is sickness, and for sorrows it's pains. He thinks of Isaiah 61. "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to those who are bound. And probably, maybe most important of all, I'm not sure, but he thinks about the following. Isaiah chapter 8, 14 through 15. And he, that is Messiah, will become a sanctuary, and a stone of offense, and a rock of stumbling to both houses of Israel, a trap and a snare to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And many shall stumble on it, they shall fall and be broken, they shall be snared and taken. So in essence, what Jesus has done, rather than just giving him a plain answer of yes, he has said to John, do you see evidence that I am doing the work that was predicted by the prophets for Messiah to do? Do you see a pattern between what I'm doing and the pattern of the prophecy of Messiah in the previous scriptures that have been given by the prophets? Well, now John the Baptist's faith has every opportunity to become even stronger than it was before. Far stronger than if Jesus had simply said, yes, I'm the Messiah. Because all of that scripture that he's memorized and internalized is now beginning to show a pattern, and his faith is going to be even stronger. So he can claim, yes, Jesus is the Messiah, not just because he told me he's the Messiah, but because he's actually doing the things that Messiah was prophesied to do. I can see the pattern. I can see that this Jesus, even though he wasn't the Messiah I was thinking about, he's showing and proving himself that he's the Son of God who takes away the sin of the world. God is interested in evidence. God uses induction, and that's cool.